At 11:53, on the 9th night of the heatwave, my boss appeared beside my truck with 2 towels and a look I had learned not to argue with during business hours. "Drive," Ava Bellamy said. "To where?" "Somewhere the water is colder than the air." 40 minutes later, we stood beside a spring-fed quarry outside Charleston. Moonlight covered the water like hammered silver. I opened the canvas bag she had carried from the truck and found bottled water, a flashlight, and nothing else. "Ava," I said slowly, "where's your swimsuit?" She held my gaze, calm and unmistakably nervous. "I didn't bring one. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me whether you believe 2 people can make one reckless choice without ruining everything around them. And if stories about difficult choices stay with you, you're welcome to subscribe and listen with me. My name is Grant Keller. I was 32 that summer, a restoration superintendent for Bellamy Heritage Works in Charleston, South Carolina. I spent my days keeping old buildings from collapsing while architects, inspectors, and wealthy donors argued about what counted as original. I had been divorced for 3 years, and the experience had left me suspicious of promises made under beautiful lighting. Ava was 28, president of the company, and exactly 4 years younger than me. She had inherited the title after her father's stroke, but not the respect that should have come with it. Half the board thought she was too young. The other half smiled while waiting for her to fail. I worked for her, directly and undeniably, which was one of several excellent reasons I had spent 18 months pretending I did not notice the way she looked at me when everyone else left a meeting. The heat wave had turned Charleston into a brick oven with Spanish moss. For 9 days, the temperature had climbed past 100, and the humidity made every breath feel borrowed. Our biggest project, the restoration of the old tidewater baths, had become a daily emergency. The building had opened in 1936 as a public swimming hall, closed after a hurricane, and sat empty for 27 years. The city wanted it restored as a community pool and cooling center before the next summer. The mayor wanted photographs. The historical commission wanted handmade mortar. The contractor wanted change orders. My crew wanted ice. Ava wanted the building saved. That was what separated her from the people who thought she had inherited a hobby. She showed up before sunrise in steel-toed boots, remembered which laborer had a daughter in the hospital, and could identify a bad limestone repair from 20 feet away. She also answered emails at 2 in the morning and treated sleep as a rumor spread by less committed executives. That Thursday, a temporary cooling unit failed inside the West Gallery. We spent 6 hours moving salvaged tile and carved wood panels before the heat warped them. Ava worked beside us without asking anyone to admire her for it. At 10:30, after the last crate was secured, she ordered the crew home. I stayed to check the humidity monitors. She found me in the darkened lobby, shining a flashlight across a wall where faded blue mosaics showed swimmers diving into painted waves. "You're off the clock," she said. "So are you. I own the clock. That explains why it's badly managed." Her mouth moved like she wanted to smile, but had forgotten whether presidents were allowed. "How long until you're done?" 20 minutes. I'll wait. That should have warned me. Ava did not wait without a reason. She paced the lobby, reading messages, then stopped beneath the cracked dome where moonlight came through missing glass. Her white blouse was rolled to the elbows, and a streak of dust crossed one cheek. She looked exhausted and more human than she ever allowed herself to look at the office. "Grant," she said, "when was the last time you did something that wasn't useful?" "I had pie for breakfast on Tuesday. That was efficient, not useless. Why are you asking?" "Because I can't remember my answer either." At 11:15, we locked the building. At 11:53, she appeared beside my truck with the towels. The quarry belonged to her grandmother's family, or had once. Ava explained that a conservation trust now managed the land, but the Bellamys still had access to a small gate and an old dock. She had learned to swim there before she could read. She had not been back since her father got sick. During the drive, she sat with one knee angled toward the window and the air conditioning blowing hard enough to lift strands of dark hair from her neck. She had changed out of her blouse in the Tidewater office and wore a black sleeveless top with loose linen pants. Nothing about her looked like the woman who could silence a room full of contractors with one raised eyebrow. "Is this a company retreat?" I asked. "At midnight?" "I've attended worse. It is not a company anything. You are still my boss." Her eyes stayed on the road ahead. "I know." The answer was too quiet. I turned down the radio. "Ava, what is this?" She took a breath. "1 hour where I'm not responsible for payroll, the city contract, my father's name, or whether Richard thinks I'm destroying the company." Richard was her uncle and the chairman of our board. He wore expensive suits, called craftsman labor units, and believed any old building could be improved by becoming luxury condominiums. "And why am I there?" I asked. "Because you're the only person I know who tells me the truth, even when it's inconvenient. That sounds dangerously close to a performance review." "It isn't." She glanced at me. "And if you say no to anything tonight, tomorrow you will have the same job, the same authority, and the same right to disagree with me in front of the entire company. I need you to understand that before we arrive." The seriousness in her voice removed every easy joke I could have used. "I understand," I said. "Good. But I still don't understand why you asked me." Ava looked back through the windshield. "You will." The gate was hidden behind a wall of live oaks. We parked on packed dirt and followed a narrow trail through the trees. The air smelled of warm pine, mud, and distant rain that had not yet reached us. Cicadas screamed in the branches. Ava used her flashlight only twice. She knew every turn. The trail ended at a limestone ledge above dark, clear water. An old wooden dock reached into the quarry, its boards silvered with age. The spring was so still that the stars seemed trapped beneath its surface. For the first time in 9 days, I felt cool air. Ava set down the bag and slipped off her sandals. I pulled my t-shirt over my head, then stopped when I realized she was watching me. Not professionally, not accidentally. Her eyes lifted to mine. "You could pretend you were checking for a workplace injury," I said. "I could. You're not going to?" "No." The honesty hit harder than flirting would have. I crouched beside the bag, expecting to find folded swimwear beneath the towels. There was none. When I asked where her swimsuit was, Ava stood very still. "I didn't bring one," she said. "You forgot?" "No." My heartbeat changed. She folded her arms, then unfolded them. Ava Bellamy could negotiate a 7-figure preservation grant without blinking, but now she looked almost frightened. "I'm not asking you to do anything," she said. "I'm going in. You can sit on the dock, you can swim in your shorts, or you can drive us home. I just couldn't spend another night acting like every choice had to be approved by a board. You planned this. I planned the towels. That is not the detail I'm questioning." A small smile appeared. "I know." She turned her back to me and reached for the hem of her top, then paused. "Would you turn around?" I did immediately. Behind me, fabric rustled. I concentrated on the tree line and the sound of water touching stone. Then came a splash, followed by Ava's sharp gasp. "It's freezing," she called. "You sold this as relief. I may have overstated the comfort." I turned. She was in the water up to her shoulders, dark hair loose around her face. Her clothes lay folded beneath one towel. The moon gave me no details I had not been invited to see, and I kept my eyes on hers. She noticed that, too. "Are you coming?" she asked. I looked at the water, then at my work shorts. "Those take 3 days to dry," I said, "so take them off. Direct order?" Her expression changed at once. "No, never that." The answer mattered. I turned my back, left my shorts beside my shirt, and entered the quarry in the least graceful way possible. Cold water closed over my head. When I surfaced, I made a sound that would have embarrassed me in daylight. Ava laughed, really laughed, head tipped back, the sound bouncing off the limestone walls. "Worth it?" she asked. I have lost the ability to lie. That might be useful. She swam away from the dock with an easy stroke. I followed, keeping distance between us. The farther we moved from shore, the quieter the world became. There were no phones, no cranes, no board members, no city deadlines. Only the soft break of our arms through the black water. Ava floated onto her back and looked at the stars. "My mother used to bring me here," she said. She said cold water made it impossible to think about anything except being alive. I liked her already. She would have liked you. The words carried more weight than she seemed to expect. She turned upright again. "How long has she been gone?" I asked. 7 years. "I'm sorry. Most people say that and then change the subject." "Do you want me to?" "No." She moved closer, though several feet remained between us. She was the last person who knew me before Bellamy Heritage became my future. After she died, my father stopped asking what I wanted. He started preparing me for the company, for the war around it. I knew enough to understand. Her father, Charles Bellamy, had built the firm into one of the most respected restoration companies in the Carolinas. He had also borrowed heavily to expand before his stroke. Ava had inherited a famous name, a sick parent, and debts no one discussed in front of employees. "You're good at the work," I said. "That isn't the same as wanting every part of it. What part don't you want?" "The part where no one gets close without wondering what I can do for them." I held her gaze. "Is that what you think I do?" "No." Her answer came so quickly that the water between us seemed to disappear. Ava swam closer until I could have reached her with one hand. "That's the problem," she said. "What problem?" "You." I laughed once, because the alternative was admitting how badly I wanted to hear the rest. That is a broad accusation. You know what I mean. I'm hoping you'll explain it in a way that protects me from guessing wrong. Ava looked toward the dock. "I've spent 18 months waiting for you to look at me the way you do when you think I'm not paying attention." The cold no longer felt cold. "You're my boss," I said. "I know. You said that already, because it is the part I hate." I moved closer, but not close enough to touch. "Then why bring me here?" "Because on Monday, assuming the board signs the restructuring plan, you won't report to me anymore. Jonah Price will become Chief Operating Officer. All field teams will report through him. Jonah had been our finance director for 6 years. He was fair, dull, and happily married to a dentist. If Ava wanted to remove a conflict of interest, she had chosen the safest man in South Carolina. You changed the company structure because of this? No. The company needs a COO because I'm doing 3 jobs badly. But I asked the attorney to make your reporting line explicit. Before tonight? 3 weeks ago. That answer quieted the suspicion rising in me. Ava's voice softened. I am not offering you a promotion, threatening your job, or asking for secrecy. I am telling you that I want you, and I have done what I can to make sure you are free to say you don't want me." I stared at her. For years, I had believed bold people were fearless. Ava showed me something different. Her shoulders were rigid. Her hands stayed beneath the water, as if she did not trust them. She had planned every professional safeguard she could think of, then brought no protection at all for the personal answer. "I do want you," I said. She closed her eyes for half a second. But I don't know if wanting you is enough to make this wise." I didn't ask whether it was wise. That sounds like something a woman swimming naked with an employee would say. She opened her eyes. "Technically, you're also swimming naked with your employer. An important legal distinction." Her laugh came out unsteady. The sound loosened something in me. I reached for her, slowly enough that she could move away. My hand found her waist beneath the water. Ava inhaled and rested both hands on my shoulders. "Tell me to stop," I said. "I have spent a year wishing you would stop stopping." I kissed her. There was nothing polished about it. The water shifted under us, my foot found no ground, and Ava's nose bumped mine before we found the right angle. Then her fingers slid behind my neck, and the awkwardness disappeared. She kissed me with a hunger that felt less like impulse than a truth delayed too long. I had imagined kissing her in quiet elevators, half-finished buildings, and the shadowed corner of the conference room after everyone left. None of those fantasies had included a quarry, a heatwave, or the possibility of being fired by a board subcommittee. Reality was better because she trembled. So did I. When we separated, she kept her forehead against mine. "I need you to know something," she whispered. That sentence has never improved a midnight swim. The board meeting Monday is not only about Jonah. I felt the warning before I understood it. What else? "My uncle wants to sell the company." I let go of her waist. Ava's hands fell from my shoulders. "Grant, to whom?" "Crown Ridge Development." The name landed like a dropped tool. Crown Ridge bought regional construction firms, stripped their equipment, kept the profitable contracts, and replaced craftsmen with cheaper subcontractors. They had turned 3 historic mills into luxury apartments with decorative beams nailed over new drywall. "They would kill the Tidewater project," I said. "They say they'll honor existing contracts. They say that until the first change order." "I know. How long have you known?" 6 weeks. I swam backward, needing space. "And you chose tonight to tell me?" "I chose tonight to tell you how I felt. I was going to tell the management team about the offer tomorrow after the lender meeting. Those are convenient categories for you." Her face tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means you brought me here, told me you wanted me, kissed me, and then mentioned the company might be sold to people who would dismantle my crew. I am fighting the sale." "Are you?" The hurt in her eyes was immediate. "Yes." I wanted to believe her. I also remembered my father coming home when I was 14 with his tools in a cardboard box. He had spent 22 years as a carpenter for a family-owned firm that sold to a national developer. The new owners called the layoffs modernization. My father called them nothing at all. He stopped talking for almost a year. Ava knew that story. "You should have told me before we got in the water," I said. "You're right. The absence of defense made me angrier, not less." "Why didn't you?" "Because I wanted 1 hour in which you looked at me and didn't see the company. You are the company tonight, Ava. You don't get to remove the title when it's uncomfortable and put it back on Monday." She flinched as if I had struck her. I regretted the sentence instantly, but not enough to take it back. We returned to the dock in silence. I climbed out first, wrapped a towel around my waist, and turned away while she dressed. The privacy felt colder than the water. On the drive back, Heat lightning flashed beyond the marshes. Ava kept both hands on the steering wheel. I watched the dark road unspool beneath the headlights and tried to separate what had happened into clean pieces. The kiss, the transfer plan, the sale, my anger. They refused to stay apart. At my apartment, she pulled to the curb but did not unlock the doors. "I should have told you about Crownridge first," she said. "Yes, I didn't invite you because I needed your support. I want to believe that." "Then believe it. I don't know how." Her jaw tightened. "You trusted me yesterday. Yesterday you were asking me to save Tile, not gamble my crew's future." Ava looked straight ahead. "The board votes in 10 days. I have a plan to stop the sale. I was going to ask you to help build it because you know field operations better than anyone in the company. And now? Now I will ask Jonah." The distance in her voice frightened me more than anger would have. "Ava, no?" She finally turned toward me. "You were right about one thing. I don't get to take the title off when it suits me. So tomorrow I will be your boss, and you will not have to wonder whether tonight affects your job. What about us?" Her expression almost broke. I don't know whether there is an us. She unlocked the doors. I got out, stood on the sidewalk, and watched her drive away while the first wind of an approaching storm moved through the live oaks. The next morning, I arrived at Tidewater after 2 hours of sleep and found Ava already there. She wore a navy suit despite the heat. Her hair was pinned back, her face composed, and she spoke to me with the courteous precision she usually reserved for city attorneys. "Mr. Keller, the lender requested revised labor projections by noon." "Mr. Keller, we are at work." So we are. Jonah stood 3 feet away pretending to study a clipboard. He was a broad man with silver glasses and the emotional range of a well-maintained filing cabinet, but even he looked uncomfortable. Ava handed me a folder. Please have your numbers to him by 11. "Anything else, Ms. Bellamy?" Her eyes met mine for one painful second. "No." She walked away. Jonah waited until she crossed the gallery. "I don't want to know," he said. "That makes 2 of us." I meant I literally do not want to know. Human Resources is a folder on my desk I avoid opening. Despite myself, I laughed. Then he lowered his voice. Richard moved the board vote up. Tuesday. That's 4 days. He said the lender won't extend the credit line without a signed acquisition agreement. Is that true? It is true that the lender is nervous. It is not true that Crownridge is the only answer. What is Ava's answer? Employee investment, a municipal bridge contract, and selling the warehouse property instead of the company. The warehouse sat on 6 acres near the river and stored most of our equipment. Selling it would keep Bellamy alive, but force us to lease space farther inland. Does it work? I asked. Only if we prove Tidewater can finish on schedule and under the revised budget. The city council meeting is Monday night. I looked across the lobby. Ava stood beneath the old mosaic dome with the project architect, pointing at a set of plans. She appeared calm. No one watching her would have guessed the company might be gone by Tuesday. Why didn't she tell the management team sooner? She was trying to get the financing far enough along that we had a real alternative, not a panic. Jonah adjusted his glasses. You know how she is. I did. Ava never brought people a problem until she had carried it alone long enough to make it heavier. At 11, I delivered the labor projections. At noon, a pipe burst in the east mechanical room. At 1, the Historical Commission rejected our replacement plaster because the sand was the wrong color. By 3, a photographer from the local paper arrived to document the heat damage. The day left no room for personal disaster. That should have helped. It did not. Every time Ava entered a room, I remembered her hands on my shoulders in the quarry. Every time she addressed me formally, I remembered saying she could not separate herself from the company. I had wanted a clear boundary. She gave me one sharp enough to cut us both. Late that afternoon, Richard Bellamy arrived. He was 60, silver-haired, and tanned in the expensive way that suggested boats rather than labor. He walked through the construction site without a hard hat until I handed him one. "I won't be here long," he said. "Gravity does not check calendars." Ava, approaching from behind him, almost smiled. Richard took the hard hat. "Grant, I hear you've become essential to my niece's rescue plan. I run the site." So modest. His gaze moved between Ava and me. "She has proposed making you vice president of field operations." The air seemed to stop. I looked at Ava. "What?" Her face changed. "Richard, that proposal is confidential. Not after Tuesday?" He smiled. "Assuming there is still a company." I waited until he walked away before turning to her. "You were going to promote me?" Ava lowered her voice. "It was part of the restructuring draft." "Nothing was approved." "Did you think I should know before your uncle announced it on a construction site? I plan to discuss it after the lender meeting. Before or after asking me to help stop the sale?" Her eyes hardened. "Do not do this here. Where would you prefer? The quarry?" Ava went pale. I hated myself for using the night against her, but the suspicion had found a shape. A new title. More money. A reason for me to fight for her plan. Maybe she had not invited me to manipulate me, but she had held information that made every private moment look compromised. "The recommendation was written a month ago," she said. Jonah and the outside consultant both agreed. "You earned it before I touched you." That is not a sentence I ever wanted my boss to say, and I never wanted my uncle to weaponize work you earned. A carpenter passed through the gallery, forcing us apart. Ava looked at me with anger and something closer to grief. "We will discuss this after the shift." "No, we won't." What does that mean? It means I'm removing the question. I walked to the temporary office, opened my laptop, and wrote a resignation letter before I could become careful enough to stop. I gave 2 weeks' notice. I declined consideration for promotion. I offered to finish the city presentation and transition the project to my deputy, Luis Mendoza. Then I printed it, signed it, and placed it on Ava's desk. She read the first line and sat down. "This is not necessary," she said. "It is for me. Because of the promotion? Because I can't tell which decisions are mine anymore." Ava stood. "I never made a decision for you. You withheld enough information to shape them. I protected confidential negotiations. You also kissed me while planning to put my name in front of the board." Her voice dropped. "I recommended you because you are the best superintendent I have. I kissed you because I am in love with you. Those facts exist at the same time, Grant, even if that makes you uncomfortable." The room became very quiet. It was the first time either of us had used the word love. Ava seemed startled by it too, but she did not take it back. I wanted to cross the space between us. I wanted to tell her I had loved her in pieces for months. In the way she knew every worker's name, in the way she stayed late without asking anyone else to, in the way she made impossible buildings feel worth saving. Instead, I looked at the resignation letter. "That is exactly why I have to leave," I said. Her face closed. She picked up a pen and signed the acknowledgement line. "I won't use my position to stop you," she said. I nodded, because speaking would have exposed how badly I wanted her to try. The storm arrived Sunday afternoon. For 9 days, Charleston had begged for rain. When it finally came, it came sideways. I was in my apartment reviewing the city presentation when Luis called. "The temporary roof failed over the East Gallery," he said. "Water's coming through the dome, and the sump pump just lost power." I was already reaching for my keys. Where's Ava? On site. Of course she was. By the time I reached Tidewater, water ran across the parking lot in brown sheets. Lightning flashed above the old bathhouse. Inside, the lobby was chaos. Tarps snapped in the wind. Rain poured through a section of temporary roofing and struck the mosaic floor we had spent 4 months restoring. Ava stood on a scaffold platform, helping 2 workers secure plastic sheeting. "What are you doing up there?" I shouted. She looked down. "You resigned, not me. Get off the scaffold." "Still giving orders? When the alternative is watching the president of the company get blown through a historic window, yes." Luis hid a smile. We worked for 3 hours without discussing the quarry, the promotion, or love. There was only the building. We redirected the water with temporary channels, moved the final crates from the gallery, and rigged a backup pump to a generator in the service yard. Ava carried hoses, logged damage, and called the city engineer while standing ankle-deep in dirty water. At one point, a section of wet plaster broke loose above her. I saw it move and pulled her backward by the waist. The plaster struck the floor where she had been standing. For one breath, she stayed against me. "Are you hurt?" I asked. "No." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Her hands gripped my arms. "Are you?" "I'm furious. That appears to be your normal condition around me." The joke was weak, but it broke the fear. I let go slowly. Near dusk, the rain eased. The building looked battered but standing. The mosaics were safe. The carved panels were dry. We had lost 2 days of plaster work and 1 section of temporary roof. But not the project. The crew gathered in the lobby, soaked and exhausted. Ava thanked every person by name. Then she told them the truth. "The board will vote Tuesday on an offer to sell Bellamy Heritage Works," she said. "I oppose the sale. Tomorrow night, I will ask the City Council to approve a bridge amendment that gives us time to complete Tidewater and preserve every current field position. I cannot promise the board will accept my plan. I can promise I will not sign away your work without fighting in public. No executive language, no false confidence." Luis asked, "What do you need from us?" "Go home," Ava said. "Sleep. Show up safely tomorrow." One by one, the crew left. I stayed to shut down the generator. Ava found me in the pump room. Her suit was ruined, her hair had come loose, and a bruise was forming near her elbow. "You came back," she said. "The building needed me, I know." The answer hurt because she did not pretend I had returned for her. I checked the fuel gauge. Jonah told me about the warehouse plan. He should not have. He thought I deserved context. "You did. I handled that badly. I faced her. Why are you really fighting the sale?" Ava leaned against the concrete wall. "Because Crown Ridge offered enough money to clear the debt, fund my father's care, and make every board member comfortable. They also plan to eliminate restoration crews within 6 months. Richard calls it consolidation. And if your plan fails, I lose control of the company. Personally, I pledged my shares and my mother's house against the emergency credit line." I stared at her. "You risked the quarry property too? The trust owns the water. I own the old cottage and the road access. That place is all you have left of her." "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I did not want sacrifice to become another way of buying loyalty." She looked at me steadily. "Especially yours." The room hummed with the backup pump. "I thought you were trying to tie me to the company," I said. "I was trying to create a company worth asking you to stay in. And the promotion? You earned it. If we survive, the offer will come from Jonah and the compensation committee, not from me. You can accept or refuse without ever discussing us." I looked down at my wet boots. "I used my father's story to decide yours before I knew it. You had reasons not to trust a Bellamy. You are not your uncle. No. But sometimes I sound like my father, and sometimes I hide information because I think carrying it alone makes me strong. I stepped closer, and sometimes I leave before anyone can choose me badly. Ava's eyes shone, but she did not move. Are you withdrawing your resignation? I don't know yet. The disappointment was small and quickly controlled. I continued, but I'm presenting tomorrow. You don't have to. I know. That's why it matters. The city council chamber was full Monday night. Preservation advocates filled one side. Crown Ridge attorneys filled the other. Richard sat behind Ava with the calm expression of a man who believed money made outcomes inevitable. Ava spoke first. She explained the warehouse sale, the revised loan, and the employee retention plan. She did not ask the council to save her family company. She asked them to protect the public investment already made in Tidewater. Then Richard's attorney questioned whether Bellamy had the management stability to finish the work. He mentioned my resignation without using my name. The room shifted. Ava did not look at me. I stood anyway. My name is Grant Keller, I said. I have supervised the Tidewater restoration since the first survey. I submitted a resignation Friday because I believed personal and professional decisions had become tangled. That resignation was my choice. It was not evidence that the company lacks a field plan. Richard's attorney smiled. Are you still leaving? I am here to discuss the building. Then answer the question. I looked at Ava, then at the crew seated behind me. I will remain through completion under an independent reporting structure, I said. After that, my future will be decided through the same review process as any other senior employee. No private promise, no special arrangement. Ava's eyes filled, but her posture did not change. I presented the recovery schedule, the storm damage, and the cost comparison. Crown Ridge's plan required replacing local craftspeople and importing prefabricated materials. Our plan cost less over 18 months because it avoided demolition, litigation, and a new design review. Facts did what emotion could not. Council members began asking Crown Ridge difficult questions. At 10:40, the city approved the bridge amendment by one vote. The next morning, with the amended contract and warehouse buyer in hand, the Bellamy board rejected the sale. Richard resigned as chairman before anyone could remove him. I found Ava alone at Tidewater after the meeting. Sunlight came through the repaired dome and scattered blue reflections across the floor. We survived, she said. You survived. We. I nodded. We. She held my resignation letter between two fingers. Jonah says your position is still open. Jonah called me at 6:30 this morning. He enjoys administrative drama more than he admits. I withdrew the resignation. Ava exhaled. And the promotion? I asked for 30 days to review it. That sounds responsible. It was painful. A smile touched her mouth, then faded. What about the other decision? I crossed the mosaic floor until I stood in front of her. I don't want a secret. I don't want favors. And I don't want you pretending you feel nothing because it is easier to explain. What do you want? You. Dinner. Arguments. A relationship disclosed to Jonah and the attorney in language so boring it kills the romance on contact. Ava laughed through sudden tears. There will be forms, I suspected. And you will never report to me directly again. Agreed. And if this ends badly, you do not get to abandon historic preservation out of spite. Now who is abusing authority? She touched my cheek. Grant, are you sure? No. I covered her hand with mine. I am choosing it anyway. This time, when I kissed her, there was no cold water, no hidden information, and no borrowed hour outside our real lives. There was daylight, paperwork, and an entire company that would know by lunch. It was less romantic than the quarry. It was more honest. 6 months later, Tidewater Baths reopened. The first people through the doors were not donors or reporters. They were children from the neighborhood, racing toward the restored pool while their parents shouted for them to walk. The old blue mosaics shone beneath the repaired dome. Luis had become senior superintendent. Jonah became COO and discovered he enjoyed human resources only when it involved telling Richard he no longer had an office. I accepted the vice president role after the compensation committee made the offer in writing. I bought the small number of employee shares with my own money. Ava did not give me a title, a raise, or anything else I had not earned. What she gave me was harder. The truth when it made her look weak, space when I needed it, and the expectation that I would do the same. We did not move in together immediately. We dated like adults with calendars, disagreements, and occasional emergency calls about 19th century brick. Some nights she was still my boss in the broadest sense, president of the company where I worked. But she was never again my direct supervisor, and neither of us used work to win a personal argument. On the first cool night after the following summer's heatwave, Ava drove me back to the quarry. This time she carried a larger bag. I opened it on the dock and found 2 swimsuits, 2 towels, and a bottle of cheap sparkling wine. "You planned responsibly," I said. "I'm capable of growth." I held up her swimsuit. "Only one?" She gave me the same nervous, daring smile she had worn the year before. I brought it. I didn't promise to use it. I laughed and pulled her into my arms. The quarry was dark and still. Behind us waited a company we had chosen to rebuild, a public pool full of voices, and a life that no longer depended on pretending we wanted less than we did. Ava touched her forehead to mine. "Are you getting in?" I looked at the water, then at the woman who had once asked me to forget she was my boss for one reckless hour. Loving her had required the opposite. I had to see all of her, the title, the fear, the power, the mistakes, and let her see all of me. "Yes," I said, "but this time you go first." She smiled, took my hand, and jumped with me. What would you have done if your boss invited you for a midnight swim and only then admitted she had not brought a swimsuit? Could you trust the feelings while protecting the professional boundaries? Share your answer in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, leave a like and subscribe for the next one.